like volunteering numbers over the last, 40 years have been gradually trickling down, but we're getting to a point where you just won't have enough volunteers for the whole system to keep going how it always has done. So, sport and physical activity is a massive kind of volunteer-led part of the sector. And if the volunteer numbers keep dropping off, I just don't see how we carry on with the current model. And that's a real issue for lots and lots of clubs. So yeah, anything that we can do as a group to think of and find ways to address that would be really good. There's a link to that. There's a couple of comments in there about sort of mental health and health in general. And I think from some of the things that we have seen that since COVID, people have, not been able to volunteer and take part in physical activity because of some of these health impacts. Does anybody want to speak about that? How you're seeing kind of health affecting, people taking part or volunteering?
Sorry, can you just repeat that? I don't know what happened. I got muted for a minute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just saying that we are seeing or hearing kind of anecdotally about the impact of health kind of issues on people who would have been taking part in the activity or would have been volunteering since COVID and the lockdowns, and potentially now the kind of pressures on the NHS being able to actually treat health conditions that people might have. That seems to be something that is affecting volunteers as much as participants. And I was interested in the comment on here about mental health starting to impact as well. So Sammy, I think you've come off.
Thanks. It's Sam here from the leisure team at RBWM, Maidenhead and Windsor Local Authority. So although I'm still relatively new in post, the thing that is definitely that we're seeing is where we look at things like leisure sites and their usage, that has fundamentally changed. It could be confidence, it could be down to people also not feeling that those sites are able to cater for them because they have a range of anxieties or health needs that have either adapted, changed, or been found. So I think from our perspective, one thing that I'm trying to do as my role is funded by public health is to be the connector and to try and bring those lived experiences rather than coming at it from more of a population-wide focus, to look as well at individual scenarios, communities and cases where we can help activate spaces as much as places. It shouldn't always be about, as far as we're concerned, people coming into leisure centres. If there can be something with either the leisure centre teams or, as many groups in this call are, the experts in their community, how can we get them to help those people in ways that also use those green spaces that certainly we're blessed with in our borough?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sam. Okay, great. Brian, do you want to move on, or do you want to look at a few more of these? Over to you.
Do you want to should we do activity 2 for like a couple minutes?
Yeah. Right. Okay. So there's a second activity. If you zoom out on that Miro board, so with your rollerball, or there's a little plus and minus icon in the bottom right corner, you'll see there's another grey box along to the right hand side. And if you then zoom back into that one, this is activity 2. And what we would like to ask you to do is along the line with the 3 icons on there, you should hopefully be able to see there's a smiley face, a kind of neutral face, and then an unhappy face along a sort of continuum. And we'd like you to take one of the sort of sticky notes at the bottom. So there's some purple kind of pads down there. If you could take that and put your name, or if you want to be kind of anonymous, that's fine. You can just put down like anonymous 1 or whatever on there. But if you can put down your organization's name if you want to, and just put where along that line you feel that you are as an organization in response to the question, which is taking everything into account, rate how you feel your organization is currently placed to respond to the changing environment. So given everything that's going on, how well placed you are from being very confident, very happy, positive on the left-hand side, all the way through to sort of really worried and negative and sort of apprehensive on the right-hand side.
So for those that are still on the bid, if you zoom right out to about 50%, then you should just be able to come from activity 1 just to the right to activity 2.
Or if you just scroll straight across the screen, you should sort of bump into it.
So you scroll, you can click the right click and then drag the screen, and that should move you along.
Is anyone struggling to get to that activity? Just come off a mute or drop a note in the chat or whatever, and we'll help you. That's interesting. So we've got quite a spread there, haven't we? You know, luckily that doesn't look like any so far that are really far along the kind of, you know, towards the negative, really unhappy end of the scale, but quite a, you know, kind of quite a concentration of you around the sort of middle area. So no one's feeling really kind of comfortable and positive about where you're at. Does anybody want to sort of share why you placed your tab where you put it?
I don't mind saying quickly, hi, Ryan and Nick. In terms of Veggie Cafe, what we provide is mostly, you know, the weekly cafe, and so all of the fitness and well-being activities that we run are sort of an add-on to that most of the time. Now we've done it all the way through, so it'd be a real shame to reduce the amount of stuff that we do for our visitors that come. But at the same time, you know, the cafe will still go on, just with reduced activities. So I think, you know, there's a positive there that we can continue to run our core activities, but it's a missed opportunity because we're seeing more need for those activities. So yeah, that, you know, that's why I've put myself sort of not crying.
Yes, I suppose that's it's a real double-edged sword, that, isn't it? So had that question have been asked in a different way, which is how do you feel about whether you can respond to all of the demand and the need that your clients have? You, for example, might put yourself further along that line because, you know, the resource and the pressure and everything at the moment doesn't allow you to actually help everyone that needs it. Or may not, as you know, as we go forward into this situation. Right, all right, thank you for that. Does anybody else want to come off? Anyone that feels kind of they're more of an outlier or further along the line, you know, either really good or the opposite way?
Hi, it's Sergit here. I can contribute a little. I'm from Slough Hockey Club.
Hi.
I put us just to the left of the centre, so more on the positive, mainly because we've done well over the past years in putting away sinking funds and so on, so that you know, we're able to refresh our facilities and so on. But you know, a few years ago would have been much more positive. With membership numbers increasing and so on. But now, as we look forward to, you know, we'll consume the reserves we've put aside. But as we start looking forward to the next 5-10 years, there are serious issues with how do we remain sustainable. So on a day-to-day basis, we're doing okay, but it's, you know, how do we refresh our AstroTurf pitches? How do we refresh the clubhouses? And those are real concerns at the moment, which is why we're going towards the right on this scale.
Thank you for that. That's really helpful contribution, actually. So there's a real positive there, and possibly something for others to think about, which is having a sinking fund. If you can keep some, you know, funding aside, if you can always carve out a little bit of surplus, you can build up those funds for when there is a rainy day, as it were. But the flip side is, from what you're finding, most organisations actually, where they've got reserves, are starting to eat into them, just as those pressures, kind of start to tell. And and from what you're saying, you're starting to horizon scan at what the future looks like, and actually, it sounds like there's some concerns about where you might be in a couple of years' time, because you may not have those surpluses to put aside. So thank you for that. That's helpful. Okay, Ryan.
Should we move on?
Yeah. Great. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, everyone. That's great. So, oh, have I frozen? Am I still here?
No, you're still there. It's just your picture.
Sorry. Yeah. So what we're keen to, yes, we wanted to set the scene and find out from everyone what's going on. But the next sort of part of this of the presentation is going to be almost different resources, different tips, just things that we've collated from Sport England right through to our own team, of ways that we think can help organizations, and also can help with reaching participants and increasing your sort of participation numbers. And again, some of them might be applicable to you, some of them might not be applicable to you. But what we're going to have is, at the end, we're going to have loads of different resources. We're going to have these Miro boards to send to people, and obviously the contacts on this call itself and the connections we make, so that hopefully by the end you can take things away that can help. So what we're going to move on to now is, like I said, just a few resources, a few tips on how we can either tweak our delivery models or add to them, just to, again, drive those participation and membership numbers. So these are the first 5 that Sport England came up with, and we've added to them a few of them. 5 sort of key things that we think can help moving forward. So the first one is making those activities that you have as accessible as possible. So people are experiencing loads of different things in their own homes, from mental strain to worry about finances. Can we make it as easy as possible for them to sign up? Firstly, can we use local facilities? Can we use people that are familiar to the community as sort of instructors or part of your groups? But the main thing is, can we make that activity that you've got on as accessible as possible? Can we communicate that they don't really need much equipment? Is it set where people, at the time of the activity, is it set where people will need to source childcare? So loads of different things around this area of, can we set it at different times? So just thinking of how we can make our activities as accessible as possible to the people in our communities. Next one is get your organization out there and known. How many of us do some form of social media content or websites or paid advertisements? Then there may be a lot of people in your area who want to take part in stuff but don't know where to go, don't know where to start. So can we use social media? Can we use local newsletters, flyers? And like I said, some of you will be doing this anyway. And one thing we're going to come on to in a second is the use of this digital marketing hub, which may be really useful to people. Number 3 is a big one around sort of flexible payments. So those that charge for services, can we think about different memberships? Can we have personal memberships? Can people sort of come and pay as they play type of thing? Can they easily opt out or opt into your services? That and providing that reassurance and actually letting people know that yes, you can do that. Loyalty discounts is another idea. Payment installations, so they can pay over a certain time. Payment holidays is another one. So if you're a membership-based organization, instead of everyone paying everything right at the start of a season or a session starting, can we pay those over the season, and then can we offer payment holidays so people can feel in control? So loads of different ideas, and like I said, these points will be padded out with more info when we send it out. But it might just be enough to keep those individuals engaged, rather than saying, well, I can't do this anymore. Just a simple thing as, like I said, offering a payment holiday or offering, different sort of flexible payment options for your members.
Right.
Next one
Brian,
is
I think just to jump in, that the thing that I think is really interesting around that is that's not just kind of people who are lower socioeconomic, or low income backgrounds. It kind of applies across the board, and most people are actually quite sort of embarrassed about talking about those things. So it's not just about whether you can offer the holiday of their membership fees or whatever. It's even sort of getting to the stage where they're willing to talk to you about that, because it's like admitting to people in their local community that they're struggling, and most people don't want to do that. So there's a piece here around kind of relationship, being able to talk to people and get those things across in a way that, is engaging, and that they trust you enough to kind of have that conversation.
Yeah, and that leads on great to the next point too, is knowing the people that are in your community, in your area, the people that are forming up your memberships, that are coming to your sessions. Know who they are. Later on, we're going to share about Sport England and the insights that they have, that you can find out. Are you an area with low socioeconomic backgrounds? So really sort of understanding the area that you live in, and coming across as more, or coming across to them that you are empathetic with what they're going through. And the last one is inclusivity. So, how many people might be thinking of doing a sport or a physical activity and just think that isn't for them, that, that whatever's around me, I can't do that, whether that be for health reasons, whether that be for, financial reasons, whether they need loads of equipment, whatever. That's not for me. So setting up sessions that really, and actively communicating that your sessions are inclusive. You don't need any equipment. It's a relaxed atmosphere. You don't need any sort of prior knowledge or experience to take part. Those sorts of things are really key about, again, someone sitting at home thinking about taking part. If they come across a flyer or social media ad and it stresses those aspects, they may be, okay, well, I don't need to be at a certain physical fitness to come and take part. I don't need to have any equipment. I don't need to have done it before. So again, a big one, and the big one there is letting people know about it. You may be doing this already, but let people know about it. Anything to add on that one, Nick? Or you happy? Good.
No, happy. Thanks.
Cool. Okay, so the next few slides are two resources we'd like to talk about, and they shouldn't take too long to talk about. So the first one is Club Matters. Now, Club Matters sounds like it's just for clubs, but it's for anyone that is involved in running an organization and running a community group, anyone that's providing a service of sport and physical activities to someone. And one of the aspects of Club Matters is this health check. And hopefully people can see the screen grabs that are on here. But so the health check, it takes you about 10 minutes to do, and it asks you various different questions on it, and it sort of goes through the questions, and you rate yourselves 1 to 3 on those questions, and it asks you sort of around your memberships, around your facilities, just loads of different questions to work through and sort of rate yourselves. And obviously, if you do it honestly and openly, then you'll get the benefit from that. And what it does is, at the end, it gives you a report on what you've answered. And the best thing about it is it will then suggest resources for you to use. And those resources can either be video webinars, training sessions that they've put on, that Club Matters have put on. They can be just downloadable documents. They may be just some guidance that they can put you towards. So hopefully everyone can see that, but it's one aspect that we think and it's free. People can go on and use it. And like I said, it really sort of rates you on your welfare and safeguarding, on your financial management, your governance. And then, like I said, on the right there is the sort of direct resources that will then become available to you following that report. So just something you can sort of go on and do with your organization.
Right, and the text on that is quite small the way it displays, so you might need to just sort of read through some of the the points on the spider diagram in terms of the areas that it assesses and those resources on the right. I'm
Yeah.
not sure about other people, but I can't read it very
You
easily.
can't see it. Okay. We'll need to zoom in somehow. Anyway, so at the top of that diagram on the left, it rates you on governance, and then we go around sort of clockwise. It rates you on welfare and safeguarding. Then it goes to financial management. It goes to volunteer workforce. It goes to employed workforce, and then it goes to facility development. So it asks you about 4 or 5 questions on each of those areas, and then it'll give you this report at the end. And then on the right-hand side, it'll then start suggesting different resources. So right at the top is a question: do you have suitable system or process in place to manage or operate your facility? And then it gives you a few web pages, a few web links, and then it links you to a webinar that Club Matters ran on facilities development. So I won't talk through all of them, but that's the sort of premise of it. And like I said, it's free. We'll link it in the PowerPoint when we send it round. Have a play around with it, and just see if it helps.
I think the other thing that's useful about this is it helps just to structure your thinking and your discussions in your organization. So it gives you something tangible to talk to your trustees, your board, your senior management team about, and will help you to highlight the areas where you may not have realized how much of a priority it was. But it just gives you a way to start looking at different parts of the organization that you might want to consider, with your forward planning.
Yeah. And so the next resource we think will help is the Digital Marketing Hub. So again, it's a free resource to sign up to, and it's obviously online, and it's a learning hub. So anyone involved, sports, fitness, health, physical activity, anything in that area, and you can sign up to it. It's for free, and the different resources they have available, it goes from they've got webinars that they run monthly. They've got short video sets that you can look up and look through. They've got downloadable content, and this is all about how you can market your sessions, how you can market your club better. And they go through loads of different resources, to starting up Facebook ads, to how you can run an Instagram account, the best sort of content that different age groups are looking at. Just loads and loads of information on there. Again, that is free. And so those that were sort of talking about marketing and how we can market our groups and our sports, that is a great place to start, to really sort of get your sort of knowledge up on marketing and social media and all of that. So again, that'll be linked in the when we send it around. Cool. Let's move on. And so the last 3 then. So we talked about sort of knowing the area that you're in, understanding the people that are in your area. So Sport England do a lot of data research. They've got local area insights, and this can be used to, again, look at the demographics of people that are in your area, how many people are in your area, and just, again, really sort of get down to understanding the types of people that live in the area that your sort of sessions that are coming to your sessions, shall we say. So one for you to look at, and hopefully you can work through and play around with the maps and look at the areas, just loads and loads of information on there. And another thing, we were talking about sort of energy costs going up, and people that are, organizations that have their own facilities or paying for energy costs. Sport England, again, loads of research that they did. It was last year, just coming out of the pandemic. They produced sort of step-by-step guidance on how organizations can think about reducing their energy costs. And they've got loads of examples and case studies for you to read through, and how other organizations have managed to do that. And the final one there is make use of your local volunteer centres. So some of you may know about volunteer centres, some of you may not know about volunteer centres, but volunteer centres are there to basically help with funding, training, and volunteer recruitment. So the page that is linked there will give you a sort of a map of Berkshire and all the different volunteer centres that are around. So we really encourage you to just get in touch with your closest volunteer centre and let them know, maybe about your aims to get more volunteers along. And all of them will have a volunteer sort of coordinator or manager, and they can pair you with volunteers. So that's a really simple way that you can sort of try and aim to get more volunteers.
Just to jump in on that, the CVSs generally will offer other useful services as well. So they are all slightly different. I know many of you work, with the CVSs already, but for those that don't, they'll be able to help you with training. Some of them put on training courses. Some of them can help you to link into kind of other partners, so they'll help you with the networking piece, or linking into contacts at local authority or health, or those other pieces that you might need. They're a really good resource and local network partner to kind of link into. Have we got any CVS partners on the call today? I think we have one registered, didn't we, Brian? I
I think
think
we had one registered. I don't know if they've come.
Okay. But yeah, we'll send out a bit more information about the CVSs for those that, those of you that don't know what they do, just so that you can see who you would need to go to in your local area.
Great. So yeah, so that was again a very quick sort of stop tour of different resources that we think can help, and so use them. Hopefully, use them and really sort of help organizations become sort of more sustainable as we work through. So the next bit we want to work on is another Miro board session. So I think Nick has put that in the chat. And so if you can click on that, and it should take you to another board.
Okay, so as per the last one, if you have any problems, please come off mute or put a message in and we will try and help you get over there. But you should land on a page that says activity 3. If you land on the bit that says activity 4, then just drag the page across to the left-hand side and you'll get to activity 3. So I can see numbers starting to climb up there. I think 5 of you have managed to get in. And what we're asking you to do is just use those sticky notes, and if you need to get another one, you can pull them from the little sticky square icon on the left-hand side of the screen. But if you can just sort of answer that question about ways that your organization is looking to maintain or boost participation at your session. So this is about, people actually taking part in the activities that you offer. And if you need to sort of go over further down, then please put any more stickies below that box if you start to run out of space. some interesting themes starting to come out. I'm just trying to sort of cluster some of them together. There's quite a few about social media. Facebook is obviously reasonably popular. I'm not sure if that's a way that you're currently doing it, I'm guessing, rather than that you want to do going forward. And then there's a group around sort of raising awareness through other organisations and linking into other partners and referral routes that are out there. The one around word of mouth, I'd imagine that's still a huge tool for virtually all of you. And then there's some pieces around either doing or trying to do things slightly differently, like women's and disability football. To if you're able to come off mute, that'd be interesting just to hear about what you're doing there. Maybe is that around trying to reach new groups, new types of participants that you couldn't previously have been working with?
Hi, yes. So obviously with the women's Euros, Euros or World Cup coming up this summer, we are trying to build a campaign to invite more women down to Slough Town to come and get involved in football and get the physical activity in, because in Slough currently the majority of women aren't reaching the amount of physical activity time that they need. So we're introducing 3 sessions, which we're trying to get out, but with schools and just these social pages, we're struggling with getting it out onto them all, because we're not getting a lot of interest in return for these sessions.
Okay, so yeah, it's reaching women and girls, yeah, around that inspiration piece of trying to piggyback on those big events. Yeah, that's interesting actually, because I think girls football has been the fastest growing sport in the country for a couple of years. But yeah, interesting if you're finding that isn't cutting through to reaching more participants at the moment. I wonder what's going on there. Yeah, thanks for that. That's interesting. Does anybody want to speak at all about social media, whether that's something you're finding is difficult or something that you're finding is actually quite helpful and a way that you do tend to reach people? Go on, Janine, just jump in.
I can just say that what works well for us is having consistency, and we do pay someone to do regular Facebook and Instagram updates for us. All our key volunteers are plugged into them, so the content is fed in on a regular basis. I think that's the thing that really keeps the momentum going, because people know that they can get all the information they need, the updates, the latest news and signposts from our Facebook and Instagram. And then the other thing is WhatsApp groups. We've got a huge WhatsApp group of local family, like mums. There's nearly 300 mums on our WhatsApp group, and they all stay in touch really regularly and signpost to each other about local activities and events, particularly during school holidays. And like baby friendly activities, but also toddlers and school age as well. So I found that WhatsApp is becoming like a new, very powerful tool for us staying in touch, and also just letting our visitors and volunteers stay in touch with each other as well.
What do you think it is about WhatsApp that works so well, for those participants? What is it about that? Because I think you're right, but
it's immediate. You don't need to log in. Or you don't need kind of to check different groups. You can just see the notifications that you want to sign up to and ignore the ones you don't. I think the other thing is sharing images, links and video content. So they share, for example, they can just post a link or an image or to an event or an activity. And it's very sort of 24 hours, mums might be up at 2 in the morning or late at night. So it's a constant thing. And when you've got that many people on it, it really does keep going 24 hours. So there's lots of benefits to it. But I think, for example, people are starting to come off Instagram and Facebook. I don't have Facebook and Instagram on my phone anymore. I use it for work, but I use it on my laptop. So I think people's habits are changing on that as well. People are actually using WhatsApp for work. You know, a lot of my meetings are now replaced by voice messages on WhatsApp. So it's just a much more quick and immediate tool.
Yeah, I think you're right. The other thing about WhatsApp is it almost gives you an identity or part of a community, because you tend to be in a group around something that you belong to or that you're doing. So you've automatically got that, you know, shared interest with the other people on there, which you perhaps don't get any other platforms. But yeah, it's an interesting one. If you're not using WhatsApp, it can be really powerful for volunteer, and kind of participation reach.
Definitely, people have joined it, and it's not just that they're in an Educafe, Parent Village WhatsApp group. It's that they basically have a ready-made check-in network of people they can ask questions, like whether it's about breastfeeding or a local activity or where to go or a good haircut for a baby, like a toddler or whatever, so it's just, I think, replacing lots of other social media. And we'll post on Facebook and Instagram, but we'll just share it with the mum's WhatsApp group. We know immediately that it's gone out to them. And I think the most important thing is that they feel part of a community, and it's their community. It's not Educafes. They're the ones that keep it ticking along.
Yeah, there are some risks with it, aren't there? But I think the benefits more than outweigh those risks if you're careful about, kind of how people are expected to interact on it.
I just wanted to back up what Janine was saying. So our target audience is women and girls, and WhatsApp has been quite powerful for us as well. And I think it's just like a really authentic, quick way. It's like quite akin to word of mouth, really, because if you're able to share it to other groups quite quickly as well. And it's less work than going on Facebook and having to share and having the right, what's it called, allowances to be able to share it, kind of thing. So I just wanted to back up what Janine is saying. So perhaps, I don't know if that's working for men and boys, but it's definitely working for women and girls.
Yeah, well, I can say kind of all the stuff that I and my son are involved in. It's all run through WhatsApp. All the updates, all the information you need, everything comes through there. It's more straightforward.
I was just going to come in there. I mean, we use small WhatsApp groups at the moment within our hockey club, but one of the concerns has been the amount of data that comes through on a group, and people are worried about that, and also having juniors on the group under 18s from a safeguarding point of view. So what we've done is just to start up a broadcast only WhatsApp group where you can control one or two admins, control the outflow of information. It restricts sort of, reply, all type of stuff going on. And so that's quite a good answer, I think, to some of the concerns that they've been around WhatsApp.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, thanks for that.
Thanks. I think to second what Surjit said, certainly one area that I've come across, not so much in my job that I'm in now, but I'm seeing it certainly when I was working in London during the pandemic, was the large amount of groups who wanted to be online but didn't have access to internet. So they might have a handset, but they have very little data. So one thing I have noticed, Ryan might be aware, is that Sported have just signed a deal with Vodafone. So I know that's a really healthy thing where we have sport for development support mechanisms that are effectively encouraging those who give data to be more community connected in. So I think they're giving out SIM cards, and they're asking people to do a little audit of themselves, which is really handy because it gives you an idea of actually how you're communicating. On the flip, being from a local authority, we don't use WhatsApp for security reasons. Yeah, you'll know where I'm going with it. So for me, it's kind of both edges of the sword. I see the benefits of it. The examples given are fantastic, but because I'm quote unquote locked out, it's me trying to find other ways of encouraging. And one thing I'm very aware of is people who aren't digitally savvy. So, for example, I've been recently speaking to the libraries team because they have a huge amount of footfall, much more than I could ever do from a few months into my post. So for me, it's trying to find ways to activate the existing resources, which again is going around the finance issue. And another area is speaking to our community engagement team, who have a good foothold in our faith-based groups, which are effectively other hubs and are delivering sport and other physical activities, and will have much more trust than I will hopefully have one day, but I certainly don't have now. So we're always open to ideas, though, and I think that's another thing where people speak about it's people's community. That's so important. It's very easy for me to come up with lots of ideas, but we need to find ways that ultimately suit the communities that we serve.
Yeah, I agree with that. And a lot of this, the work that we're all doing here is actually about just trialing stuff. And the reason for today's conversation is actually sharing the stuff that is working and the stuff you tried that isn't working, and that you decided you're not going to do anymore. I think both of those things are just as useful. It's not just about always having the answers and the things that work every time, because we all know we try stuff and it doesn't always work. So it's useful to share. Okay, Ryan, anything that you want to pick up from that board?
I think, yeah, just a few of the bringing it together around sort of taking your activity to either community groups or schools, or where there's already a collection of people. I think there's something powerful in that, and maybe something we can, as GBA can do around sharing the best practice for that. But definitely, I don't know if anyone else wants to speak about that, but definitely taking your activities to where groups are already meeting. It seems to be quite popular in this, but also in different conversations I've had.
Hi, this is Amandeep from the Slough Hub. Can I touch on that point? That's all right.
Go for it.
Yeah, of course.
So we are currently running a Saturday morning club and a May half-term club, and we have actually gone to the schools and pushed for flyers to be in local newsletters, hoping that there's a ready-made audience there and there's a location close by that they can come to for a short activity. And to be honest, we haven't had the feedback that we were expecting, and what we're finding difficult is understanding why. So the Saturday session is in the morning, 10 till 12. So should be a good time frame before lunch. Shouldn't impact anything else. And we're not getting that feedback. So I don't know whether the issue is just more complicated than that. We don't have any issues with venue hire. One of the local schools has kindly offered to use their space. So the activities are running, they're available and they're local, but we just haven't had that feedback, and we've given that to 4 of the local schools in Britwell. Yeah, and it's just, I don't know if anybody's got any thoughts on that, because participation is our biggest concern at the moment, because the outlay is there for the instructors, the time is already been put aside with staff from the hub, and it really is just getting children through the door. Yeah, I don't know if anybody's got any thoughts on that. That's why I really joined today, because obviously this is a current active situation we're in, and if anybody's got any ideas. I think, I'm not too sure, was it Samir mentioned the libraries? Thank you for that. We hadn't thought about libraries, so we'll put some flyers in there. But I don't know if anybody's got any thoughts on how best to sort of get engaged with the parents. I mean, interestingly enough, some of the parents have come back and said, oh, my children don't like sport. So I don't know whether the barrier is also the parents in some of these situations, which is not something that I thought be something we'd hear. But yeah, any thoughts would be wonderful.
Yeah, James, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I know you mentioned that you were sort of trying to get into newsletters and that sort of thing. Are your coaches kind of doing like taster sessions in the schools as well, so they get to actually sort of do some one-to-one with those coaches, or is it more just trying to advertise stuff that's at a weekend? So I wasn't too sure what your sessions were. I do apologise.
We've done taster sessions within the schools. It's not a bad idea, but obviously safeguarding and processes and time around getting that organised didn't really work in our timescales. But it's just a local activity which is local to these 3 schools that we've advertised to, and it's activities in the half term as well, so 2 half-term clubs as well. So yeah, we're advertising what's on their doorstep. That's really what it is.
Yeah, so I was just gonna, what we found with a lot of our clubs is particularly sort of taster sessions, and then they get that sort of not a bond as such, but get to see a familiar face that's going to be at the club, and then actually physically giving them a flyer there and then. Sometimes it's quite a sort of traditional approach that seemed to work quite well. But I mean, what we found is that with our sport of dodgeball and the primary school age children is quite easy to try and get those children involved in the sport. But we found with secondary school age children, particularly those that have obviously had a couple of years with decreased levels of activity and PE lessons and such, that trying to get them more engaged has been a real big challenge. In particular, which I don't know whether that's the case that other sports have found as well, but I don't know what the kind of approach is going to be to change that. But yeah, like I said, primary school children, no problem at all. But with secondary school age children, seems to be that like even after school clubs at secondary schools and that sort of thing, they're seeing decreased levels of participation and that sort of thing as well. So you're not alone with that kind of struggle. What I'd say is I'm finding it, because I could pop up in all different parts of the country with my role, and it seems to be the case across the board. So yeah, it's interesting to hear what other people's thoughts are with that.
And it's an interesting one. I think someone said about gatekeeping. Are we 100% sure that our message is getting to the right person in the school? That's one thing that we need to consider, isn't it? Is it even getting past the receptionist?
Yeah.
Can we get, and you probably are already doing this, but can we get the PE lead in a room or on a call? Can we invite them along to a session and see what you're doing? I think that really sort of trying to get some buy-in from an individual in the school is the way to go, rather than, because like I said, it might not even be getting to the parents.
Yeah.
So that would be something to note, maybe.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point that you made earlier about the perception that the parents have about their children, and there's that sort of market-led approach that you only give people what they say that they want, but actually, if they've never tried a certain activity, they may not have any idea that that's what they want. So sometimes you have to build it and hope that they will come, and when they come, they like it and they want to stay.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think what we find is that the barrier is already there from the parent, and then obviously that child will then has to be taken to that class by the parents, and if that doesn't happen, then they won't attend. But I do really like the idea of taster sessions. That's definitely something I think we'll try out going forward, and I think it will help in terms of sharing our organisation, what we do, making ourselves more visible. I think the taster sessions is a really good idea.
Yeah, and some of this is, it just takes time.
Yeah.
I've set up, I don't know how many different, kind of new groups over the years, and sometimes they happen straight away, and sometimes it just takes ages, and you think it's not going to happen, and there's always one critical moment or one, point in time where suddenly something changes and you get a jump forward, and it's usually a person. There'll be a key person that will open a door or that will make the change. And we've set up girls rugby at the club that I coach, and there was two things. One is we managed to get a girl along who was kind of the center of everything. She tried it and liked it, and then she brought loads of other girls. But until that point, we'd been struggling. And then some others who wanted to come weren't sure. And when we put on hot chocolate, we got tons and tons more girls coming. And they turned up because they'd heard about this hot chocolate and hanging out, having their own clubhouse to themselves. And they came to see that, and the rugby was incidental, but then they enjoyed the rugby and realized they liked doing that as well. But it wasn't just the activity that they were there for. So some of these other things, can be the thing that just gets them through the door to start with.
Okay, thank you.
There's another hand up. Was it Sammy? Did you have a hand up?
Well, as a former teacher, I can give one perspective. As a former PE teacher, we just don't know sometimes. That's what I found. So I worked in West London and Ealing, and that was the last big recession, 2008, where we had a big Sport England Cup, and we were trying to find innovative ways in a small primary school to get parents connected up, and it would just go to the admin or to the head teacher, and the head teacher was great, but she just didn't have time to disseminate it to me. So a tip that I just put in the notes was how someone found me was they'd done a call to action with people they were working with, one who happened to be a parent who then happened to have a child in my school. Parent came up to me. So it's about being a bit innovative and thinking about the cohort that you may have in your address book or whatever, and just saying, hey, do you know someone at the school? We've got this offer. And they brought me a leaflet, and the rest was history, and we connected it up. But I agree with what said. Time is an issue, but it is important, especially with the current scenario that schools are facing, where they may be struggling to fill roles. So opportunities seem to be a little bit less easy to connect to, but sounds like there's lots of good ideas here.
Yeah, we could probably do 2 hours on this one, I think, because it's common to all activities, isn't it? How do you get to people who, you think would want to take part in what you're offering and don't come along? It is tricky to get going with. Okay, has anyone else got any other sort of, really burning kind of solutions that you wanted to chip in? Are you happy to move on? Okay, so we've got kind of quarter of an hour left. So very quickly, we'll do the other activity and then move on and sort of get you away on time. So if you go back onto the Miro board and scroll across to the right-hand side, so just click with the right-hand mouse button and drag the screen across to the right, and you should find activity 4. Very similar to the last one. If you can just use those post-its that are in there to put down ways that your organization is addressing or overcoming current challenges. And so this is wider than just participation. So any challenges you're seeing around cost of living or COVID recovery, any of those issues, just are there any really good tips or things that you're using at the moment that you think would be valuable to share with others? And just put those in, and we'll do a quick session on that, and then we'll summarize. Anyone struggling to get across to that side? Does anybody need the link again? So I'll just refresh it. You should be able to click straight through from on the presentation screen, but just in case, I'll put it in the chat. Like that. So that's quite interesting. Going outdoors wherever possible. There's quite a lot of evidence about outdoor activity. I think it probably means when it's not tipping down with rain, but generally taking part in stuff in outdoors environments, has added benefits for people. So there's an interesting one there about remodeling services around volunteer and staff roles. Does anyone want to come off of mute and just talk a little bit about that one?
Hi, that was me, it's Jeanette.
Oh, hi, Janet.
Yeah, so we've got some services that have certain way for a while that work to a certain staff to volunteer ratio, and volunteers have had specific roles but quite reliant on staff to be doing a lot of the coordinating, and looking at upskilling those volunteers really around taking on more of the organisation role, change the ratios and actually keep going with a smaller staff input, because it's roles that are difficult to continue to maintain in some of these areas, but it takes time to do that remodeling. And one of the challenges we've had in some of the conversations with kind that naive attitude that, well, you use volunteers, therefore it's free, isn't it? Well, not really. If you want to do it well and if you want to do it safely, there's a recruitment and a training and a support process that needs to go behind that.
Yeah, yeah, it might remove some of the cost, but it, other ways can bring other challenges, can't it? To manage people who are giving up their time for free and the expectation on them as well. So yeah, that's a really interesting model though, to save some of that overhead. In some ways by bringing volunteers in more. How are you finding that's going? Is that kind of is that working?
It's going slowly. We've got some very enthusiastic volunteers about taking on more, and we're looking at more trainer approaches as well, so that hopefully then speed up bringing on more to be taken.
Brilliant. All right, thanks for sharing, Janet. Sorry, go on. I think you cut out for a sec.
Sorry, I think I might have lost my mic. Yeah, so more trainer approaches to how we bring people on board as well.
Okay. What does that look like then? The trainer piece, is that?
So if we have somebody who's coming to us as a volunteer and saying, I want to support this particular physical activity, it's walking for wellbeing is the area that we're looking at and have had to look at changing because of some of the funding issues. So we've got volunteers who have been part of supporting the walks, but what they're now seeing is, well, yes, we would be willing to be part of organising this, and that's not just putting the walk together, but actually part of bringing on other volunteers who come along. So it takes some of the resource commitment away from our paid staff to move to volunteers. So that's the model that we were aiming towards, but I wouldn't say we're there yet. We're working it through.
Great. Well, maybe if we do some more of these, we'll track your progress and see how you're going next time we get back together. It sounds really interesting though. What else have we got in here then? Has anyone got anything they've put down that they think's a really big sort of change or shift that they've seen really, what's the word they use? Shift the dial, really kind of change things quite dramatically for your organization, or, you've kind of gone, oh, that was really, really insightful. I didn't realize if we did that this massive thing would happen as a result. Or even little things. Okay, looks like everybody's probably made their input to the board. So we've got quite a few things around volunteers and changing sort of volunteer models. Collaboration and sharing of knowledge and resources. So that's quite an interesting one, which is obviously, kind of up our street around the collaboration piece and bringing organizations together. So one of the things that we've seen in GBA probably links to that, around bringing partners together to share learning, and we're doing a bit of that today, but it's interesting that other people are seeing that actually in your kind of day jobs as well. So if that's useful, something that we could think about doing a bit more. Flexibility for volunteers, reaching out more to partners, and using grants to help people for some of their activities. So like using grants to help sort of subsidize things. So I can't see who that is. Is that Gaminda? Would you like to come in?
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry, I should have said something earlier, but I mean, this is the first time we did delivery of sessions because we're just a new charity. But I think Aman's on the call, with I think Chelsea, when she used to work for Get Back Active, got us together, and we put a partnership together with a range of different clubs who supported me to deliver a range of physical activities for children and adults. And I think, the fact that we had sessions consistently going every other day, made it more aware to, the community and word of mouth that these sessions were happening. So I think, we're going to hopefully continue this partnership. So maybe moving towards having partnership with, and offering a range of sessions So sometimes parents had come with their child to do one session, then they stayed for the second session, which is an adult child, and we accommodated children to stay, you know, and even some of them started participating because we used to have a aerobics club, so they started, you know, participating with, or a dance club. So I mean, I think, you know, being a bit more flexible has been really good, but having partnerships to help us deliver what we bid you to do has been really good.
Right, thank you for that. So that's interesting that you're facilitating the parents to take part by making sure that the children have got something to do, allows them to do it. Okay, I'm aware we've only got a few minutes. There was one post on there that did look interesting actually as well, around bringing women into sports centres, and that proves the value to the centre itself, which seems to be providing, you know, some good traction as well, and that creates a bit of secondary spend, so that leisure centres are then interested in helping to make your sessions happen. So that's a good one as well. Ryan.
Hello.
Got a couple of minutes, so I'll hand back
Yeah.
to you to sort of finish up. Thank you all
Perfect.
for that great input. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. So we'll move on. So yeah, I mean, that was some great input, and what we'll do is we'll collate all of that and sort of put it into a more, you know, thing that people can understand, and if there's things on there that people can take away and use, then fantastic. We'll come on to a few questions if you've got any questions at the end, but only a few minutes left. So just on GBA, so we have got more workshops, webinars and forums planned. So we have partnered with Involved Community Services. They're running 3 sessions for us, 3 webinars. And they're going to be on financial planning, on governance, on strategic planning, and that's for it's basically for any charities, staff leaders, but we're opening it up to anyone. So if you run an organization, run a club, and you want to sort of go on some more, find out more about how we can financially plan, or how we can sort of strategically plan over the next sort of 5 years, then the Involved workshops are happening, and we'll link those in when we send this out. This is the first workshop that we've actually run on this topic. So we're keen to find out whether there's more interest in this area. We've got another workshop planned, and that's going to be on how we engage with more volunteers. And then we've got a forum planned for funding and bid writing. So if you work, you know, if you're interested in any of those areas, we've got those 2 coming up. Again, we'll link those in. But I guess the main part of this is a general question now. You don't necessarily have to answer now, but it'd be great if you could. Is, you know, is there a need? Not so well. Are people interested in sort of doing more in this area of sort of resilience and sustainability? A few yeses. And be honest if you're a no.
Yeah, we're big enough to take criticism. If it's been a complete waste of time, tell us. You know, happy to take positive feedback.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, last few seconds then. My email address is going to be on here. I'll put Nick's email address on here. If you are in a situation where you need some help with anything, whatever that may be within your sort of club or organization, please do get in touch with us. If we can't help, we can definitely find other people. You know, there's definitely other people on this call that would be able to help. So don't feel like you're alone in it all. So please do get in touch if there is any issues, or even if there isn't any issues, if you want to sort of shout about how well you're doing and how things are going, please do get in touch with us. And that brings us to the end of today's bang on 2 o'clock. If there are any questions, if anyone wants to stick around and ask us any questions, please do go ahead. But yeah, thank you very much for coming along. Nick, thank you for doing the Miro boards. And yeah, thank you to everyone for really sort of engaging in the session.
Please can you just put in the chat 1 to 10 scale of how useful today was? So 1 if it was useless and not helpful, and 10 if it was amazingly useful. Please give us a 1 to 10 grading. That would be great. just to help us for sort of future planning, and put in the chat anything you want us to think about for future session. But otherwise, thanks all for coming. Great to meet you. Thanks for being so sort of engaged and enthusiastic.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Right, see you again.
Bye.
Any questions? Anybody want to chat about anything, that we've touched on today, or?
If there's any questions about the Club Matters or the digital marketing hub or anything like that, please do.
Future, so Sammy put something there about future sessions on stories of progress and examples of what ways groups are overcoming cost of living associated challenges. So yeah, a bit of that sort of using case studies that we're aware of where people have actually tackled some of these issues. Yeah, and I think there's some of that out there, isn't it, Ryan? There are some examples of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay. Good stuff. Who's left? Claire.
My phone, I've got a new phone and I'm like struggling to figure out how to even send a message. Oh my goodness, it's just been a nightmare. But I've really enjoyed the session, very informative, very helpful. I've taken a few notes and I will be letting my managers know exactly what was going on. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, don't hesitate to get in touch if you want to chat further about anything, Claire.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
Well, thanks for coming.
Sure. No problem at all.
Thanks for coming, Claire.
Okay. All the best.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Take
bye.
care. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Ryan,
Right,
lots
everyone.
of 8s and 9s by the looks of it on the the scores, which is pretty good. Really good.
Oh, I'm stopping sharing.
That's fantastic. I mean, given
I thought that was pretty good.
given how reserved the English are, and
Yeah.
even if they've had the best time of their life, and they've been out for the evening with Brad Pitt and
Here's right.
flown to the moon and back, they'll still they'll give it an 8.5.
Yeah.
Like not a 10.
Yeah.
So
Average.
given that's the sort of British way, and there's nothing below an 8 on there, and there's a 9 as well. That's brilliant.
Stop recording. The